Hi, I'm Andrew from KWMWine.com, your favourite place to buy wine online, of course. Today we're trying the Domaine de la Motte Chablis Vignes from Famille Michaud. So 2014 vintage. First interesting thing about this particular wine is Vignes. So if you don't know what that means, it means old vine. And in this particular case, they definitely are old vines, where the production that goes into this here come from vines approximately 50 years old plus. Now, there is no legal definition to say that's what constitutes an old vine and what doesn't constitute an old vine. A lot of it's really on the head of the winemaker and their integrity and honesty in that case. So definitely in the case of Domaine de la Motte, they're true in what they say. I've seen some winemakers in the past label old vine or Vignes as something that's about 15 years old. That is far from being an old vine. 50 years old certainly would qualify in my opinion. So Chablis, you may or may not noticed over the past few years, has really rocketed in price, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is probably world demand for a start. They become more and more popular as time's gone on, so the prices have gone up. And secondly, the sort of poor harvest. It's in a very marginal area, quite northern in France. It's probably, it and Champagne would be the two closest wine regions to Paris. This Chablis is just south of Paris. It is part of Burgundy, but is kind of detached up around sort of the city of Auxerre and Nyon. And there's different levels in Chablis as well. So you've got your standard Petit Chablis to begin with, your Chablis, your Premier Crus, and of course your Grand Crus. So this here sits about the second level, so your standard Chablis, if you like, but it's sort of somewhere between it and a Premier Cru in terms of the Vignes, in terms of the quality of the soils that the grapes are coming from, and the winemaking that goes into it, and the quality of actually the grapes that come off those vines. So colour-wise in this here, very pale as you might expect. Now, well, these sorts of wines you don't expect to see oak or anything like that. They tend to be very lean, minerally, particularly mineral, acid, sort of high acid wines really. Great with seafoods maybe, as depending on the styles of the Chablis, they will suit different foods, I suppose. And there's a massive range of flavours and qualities in Chablis between the different levels and qualities. But the one key thing about the Chablis wines is about the sort of terroir. And if you ever want to taste what terroir is about, Chablis is always a good place to go, because I've got these two soils called Kimmeridgian clay and a Portlandian soils. Now these are all sort of like based on a chalk, sort of bedrock. And that's all based on like fossils from obviously hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago that sort of settled in that area. And that seam of land runs right through sort of northern France into southern England. So if you think the White Cliffs of Dover, these are the same kind of soil structures that are in the Chablis area, I suppose. That sort of old sea basin, if you like. So all those sort of minerally, fossily sort of tones, old shells and stuff, tend to come through in the wine, I find, if you get good examples. So say colour in it's very pale, as you might expect. You smell this here, the first thing that comes to you is sort of lemony citrus flavours in terms of a fruit. There's a little bit of ripeness in there, almost a slight melon, I suppose. Now, I think that's actually a little bit more of the oak coming through in that. Now, this wine, typically Chablis are not oaked, but this wine here sees about 15% in 600 litres fermentation vessels. So it really has a very, very subtle influence on the actual finished product. It's not like the buttery sort of Burgundy styles or Merceaux or anything like that. It's only there just to add a little bit of complexity. And then after fermentation, there's about still that 15% stays in oak barrel for about 8 to 12 months afterwards, just to add a little bit of complexity, sort of sit on lees and things like that. The rest is all stainless steel. So yeah, lemon, touch of melon, but you get that sort of, if you think of the seaside and you think of those salty sort of seashells and stuff and crushed seashells, you really get that in this style of wine on the nose. sort of definition of mineral for me. First thing you get with this is a precise acids, really mouth-puckeringly lemon. It's got a little bit of weight. Sometimes Chablis can be very lean, very light. There's a bit of texture and a bit of weight, and that probably comes from the oak barrel too, from the oak ferments and the oak age. So it just adds a little bit of complexity and layering into the actual finished wine. You just imagine this wine if you're having some sort of like oysters, mussels, shellfish of some sort, or it'll be a fantastic match. It has a little bit of texture, so it could go with sort of more of those maybe chickeny style dishes if you wanted to, more sort of meatier style fish possibly as well. But I think great match would be oysters or mussels, shellfish of some sort or other. Really nice wine, lovely example, and particularly good value as well, I think, in terms of Chablis. And value in Chablis at the minute is two words that don't usually go in the same sentence. But I think with Famille Michaud and their Domaine de la Motte Vignes, they've hit the spot. It drinks really well. If you like those leaner, more minerally styles, this is a wine worth trying. So there you go. Domaine de la Motte Chablis Vignes 2014. Remember, caterwine.com. Please, your taste matters. Cheers.